Daniel hadn't been to a party in almost 2 years. Not a real one anyway. Birthday parties at Chuck E. Cheese didn't count, even though he'd been to about 15 of those. But this Friday night was different. His younger sister, Kate, had practically begged him to come to her friend's art gallery opening downtown. "Come on, Daddy. You need to get out of the house. Lily is 7 now. She doesn't need you hovering over her every single second," Kate had said over the phone that morning. "I don't hover," Daniel replied, though he knew it wasn't entirely true. "You packed her lunch with a note every day this week. Monday's note had a drawing of a superhero. You hover." Daniel smiled despite himself. "That's called being a good dad." "I know you're a great dad, but you're also a 34-year-old man who hasn't had a conversation with an adult woman in months. I'm babysitting Lily tonight. No excuses." So there he was, standing in a small art gallery with white walls covered in abstract paintings that he didn't quite understand. People held wine glasses and spoke in that particular way people do at art events. Lots of nodding and fascinating. And the use of negative space here is quite bold. Daniel felt completely out of place in his jeans and button-down shirt. Everyone else seemed to be wearing black. He was seriously considering leaving when he heard a voice behind him. "What do you think of this one?" Daniel turned to find a woman standing next to him, looking at a painting that appeared to be mostly red and orange swirls. She was beautiful in an intimidating way. Sharp features, perfectly styled dark hair, wearing a black pantsuit that probably cost more than his monthly rent. She held her wine glass like it was an extension of her hand. "Honestly," Daniel said, "I think my daughter could paint something similar. And she's 7. The woman laughed, a real laugh, not the polite chuckle he'd been hearing all evening. "I was thinking the exact same thing. But apparently, this one costs $8,000. $8,000. Daniel nearly choked. "For that, art is subjective," she said with a shrug. "I'm Natalie, by the way." "Daniel." They shook hands. Her grip was firm, confident. This was someone used to being in control. "So you have a daughter?" Natalie asked, taking a sip of her wine. "Yeah, Lily. She's 7. Smart as a whip and currently obsessed with dinosaurs. She can name more species than I can keep track of." "That's sweet. Where's her mom tonight?" It was a normal question. People asked it all the time. But it still made Daniel's stomach tighten a little. "We've been divorced for 3 years. I have full custody." Natalie's eyebrows raised slightly. "Full custody? That's unusual." "Her mom. She wasn't ready to be a parent. She wanted different things. It's better this way." Daniel had given this explanation so many times it came out smooth now, even though the truth was messier and more painful than those simple sentences suggested. "So you're doing the whole single dad thing," Natalie said. It wasn't quite a question. "Every day. School lunches, homework help, braiding hair. Though I'm still not great at that one. Lily says my braids look like twisted rope." Natalie smiled, but there was something in her expression that Daniel couldn't quite read. Amusement maybe. Or pity. He'd seen that look before from other women. "That must be exhausting," she said. "It is. But it's worth it. Still, it doesn't leave much time for other things. Dating. Social life. You know, adult stuff." There it was. The assumption people always made. That being a single parent meant you stopped being a whole person. That you couldn't possibly have anything left to offer outside of bedtime stories and permission slips. "I manage," Daniel said evenly. Natalie took another sip of wine, studying him over the rim of her glass. "I'm sure you do. But let's be real here. Single dads are great at the whole nurturing thing, being responsible, all of that. But when it comes to actually knowing what a woman wants, that's a different skill set. You're probably so focused on juice boxes and parent-teacher meetings that you've forgotten how do you know." She left the sentence hanging there, deliberately vague, but perfectly clear. Daniel felt something flicker inside him. Not anger exactly, more like a spark of challenge. He'd heard variations of this before. The idea that becoming a single father had somehow neutered him, made him less capable, less interesting, less masculine. People assumed his life was nothing but sacrifice and exhaustion. They weren't entirely wrong, but they weren't entirely right either. He took a small step closer to Natalie, not invading her space, but closing the distance, just enough that the conversation became more intimate. Her eyes widened slightly, surprised. "Want to bet?" Daniel said quietly. For a moment, Natalie just stared at him. Then that amused smile returned, sharper now. "Excuse me. You think a single dad like me can't please a woman? I'm saying you're wrong. Want to bet?" The noise of the gallery seemed to fade slightly. Other conversations, the soft instrumental music playing in the background, the clink of wine glasses, all of it became distant. This moment was just the two of them, locked in this unexpected challenge. Natalie's expression shifted through several emotions. Surprise, intrigue, something that might have been respect. She was clearly someone who didn't get caught off guard often, and Daniel had just done exactly that. "You're serious," she said. "Completely. You do realize I'm a lawyer, right? I argue for a living. I don't lose bets." "Then you've got nothing to worry about." Natalie tilted her head, studying him with new interest. This wasn't the exhausted, apologetic single parent she'd expected. This was someone with confidence, someone who knew exactly who he was and what he was worth. "Okay," she said slowly. "I'll bite. What exactly are we betting on here?" "One date. I plan everything. If I'm right, and I can show you that being a single dad actually makes me better at understanding what matters, you admit you were wrong. And if you're wrong, then you get to say I told you so, and I'll accept that maybe I've been out of the game too long." Natalie considered this, swirling the wine in her glass. Daniel could see her lawyer brain working, looking for angles and loopholes. Finally, she extended her free hand. "Deal. But I have one condition." "What's that?" "Before this date of yours, I want to see what your life actually looks like. The real thing. Not the cleaned-up version people show on first dates." Daniel hesitated for only a second. His life wasn't glamorous. It was early mornings and dinosaur facts and soccer practices. But it was real, and he wasn't ashamed of it. "Okay, Lily has a soccer game on Saturday morning, 10 o'clock at Riverside Park. You're welcome to join us." Natalie laughed again, this time with genuine surprise. "You're inviting me to a kid's soccer game? As part of proving your point? You said you wanted to see the real thing." "I did say that." She pulled out her phone. "Give me your number. I'll text you so you have mine." They exchanged numbers right there in the middle of the art gallery, surrounded by expensive paintings neither of them cared about. As Kate appeared from across the room with a curious expression, Daniel felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Not just attraction, though there was that, but the thrill of possibility, the sense that maybe, just maybe, his life was about to become more interesting. Natalie finished her wine and set the empty glass on a passing waiter's tray. "Saturday at 10. I'll be there. This should be entertaining if nothing else." "Trust me," Daniel said. "You have no idea what you just signed up for." She smiled one more time before walking away, disappearing into the crowd of art enthusiasts. Kate rushed over immediately. "Who was that? And why do you look like you just won something?" Daniel watched where Natalie had vanished into the crowd. "I think I just made a bet I really need to win." Saturday morning came faster than Daniel expected. He woke up at 6:30, which was actually sleeping in for him. Lily was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with her soccer uniform laid out in front of her like she was preparing for battle. "Big game today, huh?" Daniel said, ruffling her hair as he walked past to start the coffee maker. "Dad, we're playing the Thunderbolts. They haven't lost a single game this season." Lily's face was serious. "Coach Ben says we need to focus on defense." "Coach Ben is smart. You'll do great." "Are Aunt Kate coming to watch?" Lily asked, taking a bite of the cereal Daniel had poured for her. "Not today. But, I invited someone else. A new friend." Lily looked up, her spoon halfway to her mouth. "A friend or a grown-up friend?" Daniel smiled. His daughter was too perceptive for her own good. "A grown-up friend. Her name is Natalie. She wanted to see what a soccer game was like." "Does she have kids?" "No, she doesn't." Lily considered this information while chewing her cereal. "Is she nice?" "I think so. I don't know her very well yet. That's why she's coming today, so we can get to know each other better." "Okay," Lily said simply, then returned her attention to her breakfast. Daniel wished he could be that casual about it. The truth was, he'd barely slept. He kept wondering if Natalie would actually show up, or if she'd realize how ridiculous the whole thing was and cancel. By 9:30, they were at Riverside Park. The morning was cool and clear, perfect soccer weather. Daniel helped Lily with her shin guards and cleats, while other parents set up folding chairs along the sideline. He knew most of them by name now. There was Robert, whose son Tyler played goalie. Amy, who always brought orange slices for halftime. The Chens, whose twin daughters were the team's best scorers. Daniel, good morning. Amy called out, waving from her chair. Morning, he called back. Lily ready to take down the Thunderbolts? She was born ready. This was his world. Familiar, comfortable, safe. He knew the rhythm of Saturday mornings, the smell of fresh-cut grass, the sound of kids warming up with practice kicks. He knew which parents would chat, and which ones just wanted to watch the game in peace. He knew where the bathrooms were and which snack stand had the best lemonade. And then Natalie arrived. Daniel spotted her walking across the parking lot toward the field. She was dressed down compared to the gallery, jeans, a white t-shirt, sunglasses pushed up on her head. But even in casual clothes, she had this presence. She walked like someone who was always exactly where she was supposed to be. Several of the other parents noticed her too. Daniel saw Amy nudge her husband and whisper something. You made it, Daniel said as Natalie approached. I said I would. She looked around at the field, the kids running drills, the parents setting up camp with their chairs and coolers. So this is what Saturday mornings look like for you. Every Saturday during season, sometimes twice if there's a tournament. Which one is Lily? Daniel pointed to where his daughter was practicing passes with another girl. Number 7, the one with the ponytail. Natalie watched for a moment. She's smaller than most of the other kids. Yeah, but she's quick, and she doesn't give up easy. She gets that from you, I'm guessing. Daniel smiled. Maybe. The game started at 10 sharp. Daniel had brought an extra folding chair that he set up for Natalie. She sat down next to him, and he tried not to think about how aware he was of her presence. How different this felt from every other game he'd watched. For the first 15 minutes, Natalie was quiet, just observing. The Thunderbolts scored first, and Daniel's team, the Riverside Rockets, struggled to get the ball past midfield. Lily was playing defense, and Daniel watched her chase down a much bigger girl and steal the ball cleanly. Yes, that's it, Lily, he shouted, jumping to his feet. Other parents joined in the cheering. This was the other thing about kids' sports. Everybody cheered for everybody. When Tyler made a save in goal, the whole sideline erupted. When one of the Chen twins scored, bringing the game to 1-1, Daniel high-fived at least 5 different people. You're really into this, Natalie observed during a break in play. Of course. Aren't you supposed to be? I don't know. I've never been to one of these before. She gestured at the scene around them. It's very community-oriented. That's kind of the point. At halftime, Lily ran over to grab water from the cooler Daniel had brought. Her face was red from exertion, and her ponytail had come half loose. You're doing amazing out there, sweetie, Daniel said, handing her a water bottle. Thanks, Dad. Then she noticed Natalie sitting in the chair next to his. Hi, Natalie said. You're really fast. Lily beamed. I'm the fastest on the team. Well, except for maybe Zoe. She's pretty fast, too. Your dad says you like dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs. My favorite is the Parasaurolophus. Most people think T-Rex is the best, but Parasaurolophus had this crest on its head that could make sounds. That's way cooler. That is pretty cool, Natalie agreed, and she sounded like she meant it. Do you like dinosaurs? Lily asked. I don't know much about them, but you're making me interested. I could tell you about them sometime. I have like 6 books. I'd like that. Coach Ben called the team back, and Lily ran off, waving goodbye. Daniel watched his daughter rejoin her teammates, feeling something tight in his chest. That moment had mattered more than Natalie probably realized. Lily didn't warm up to strangers easily, not since the divorce. The second half was intense. The score went back and forth. 2-1 Thunderbolts, 2-2, 3-2 Rockets. With 5 minutes left, it was 3-3. Daniel was on his feet for most of it, shouting encouragement. At some point, Natalie stood up too. When one of the Thunderbolts players tripped Lily, not on purpose, but hard enough that she went down, Natalie actually gasped. "Is she okay?" Natalie asked, and there was real concern in her voice. Lily got up, brushed herself off, and got right back into position. Daniel felt pride surge through him. "She's tough," he said. In the final minute, Lily intercepted a pass and sent the ball up to Zoe, who took it all the way down the field and scored. 4-3. The Rockets won. The sideline exploded. Daniel was hugging Amy, high-fiving Robert, and then Lily was running toward him, and he scooped her up even though she was getting too big for that. "You did it. You guys actually beat the Thunderbolts." "Did you see that pass, Dad? Did you see it?" "I saw it. That was perfect." When he put Lily down, she was grinning so wide it looked like her face might split in half. Other kids were celebrating, parents were congratulating each other, and chaos reigned in the best possible way. After the excitement died down, and the team had their post-game snack, Daniel, Lily, and Natalie walked toward the parking lot together. Lily was already negotiating for ice cream. "You said if we won, we could get ice cream," she reminded Daniel. "I did say that, didn't I? Can Natalie come with us?" Daniel looked at Natalie, trying to read her expression. This wasn't part of the plan, but Lily had asked, and somehow that changed everything. "If she wants to," Daniel said. Natalie looked between father and daughter. For a moment, Daniel thought she'd make an excuse and leave. This was probably already more than she'd bargained for. But then she smiled, a softer smile than the sharp one from the gallery. "Ice cream sounds good," she said. They went to a small place called Sweet Scoops 3 blocks from the park. Lily ordered strawberry in a waffle cone. Daniel got coffee flavor in a cup. Natalie chose mint chip. They sat at a small table outside, and Lily talked almost nonstop about the game, about her favorite soccer players, about the science project she had to do for school, about her friend Becca, who had just gotten a new puppy. Daniel watched Natalie as she listened to his daughter ramble. She asked questions, real ones, not the polite kind adults ask kids when they're not really interested. When Lily explained her science project idea, testing which type of soil was best for growing beans, Natalie suggested she document everything with photos. "That way you can show the changes over time," Natalie said. "Scientists do that." "That's a really good idea," Lily said, looking at Daniel. "Can we do that, Dad?" "Absolutely." By the time they finished their ice cream, it was almost 1 o'clock. Lily was starting to fade, the adrenaline from the game wearing off. "We should probably get you home," Daniel said. "Someone needs lunch and a shower." "I don't need a shower," Lily protested, but not very convincingly. They walked back to Daniel's car. Before they said goodbye, Lily looked up at Natalie. "Are you coming to my next game?" Natalie glanced at Daniel, then back at Lily. "Would you want me to?" "Yeah, you're nice. And you didn't get mad when I talked a lot." "You didn't talk too much," Natalie said gently. "I liked hearing about everything." In the car on the way home, Lily fell asleep in the back seat within 5 minutes. Daniel glanced at her in the rearview mirror, then looked at his phone sitting in the cup holder. He wondered if Natalie had made it to her car yet, wondered what she was thinking about the morning. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number that he knew was Natalie. "Okay, you might have a point. That wasn't what I expected." Daniel smiled as he stopped at a red light. He typed back quickly, "Just wait for the actual date." The reply came fast. "I'm starting to think I might have underestimated you." "You definitely did," Daniel wrote. "See you soon." As he drove home with a sleeping daughter in the back seat and the afternoon stretching ahead of them, Daniel felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope, the real kind. The kind that made you believe good things were still possible. Daniel spent 3 days planning the date. He'd asked Kate to babysit Lily on Wednesday evening, telling her it was important. Kate had squealed so loud on the phone, he'd had to pull it away from his ear. Finally, "I knew that woman at the gallery was into you." "It's not like that." "Well, not exactly. It's complicated." Dating is always complicated. Just don't overthink it. But Daniel couldn't help overthinking it. This wasn't just any date. He'd made a bet, and more than that, he wanted to prove something. Not just to Natalie, but maybe to himself too. That he hadn't lost himself in being a dad. That he could still do this. He texted Natalie on Monday with simple instructions. Be ready Wednesday at 6. Wear something comfortable. And come hungry. Her reply had been immediate. Mysterious. I like it. Should I be worried? Only if you're afraid of a little adventure. Now it was Wednesday, and Daniel was standing outside Natalie's apartment building at exactly 6 o'clock. He'd driven past twice to make sure he had the right address. His palms were sweating slightly, which felt ridiculous. He was 34 years old, not 16. Natalie came out wearing dark jeans and a soft gray sweater. Her hair was down, falling past her shoulders. She looked different than she had at the gallery or the soccer game. More relaxed somehow. Right on time, she said, walking up to his car. I'm impressed. When you have a 7-year-old, being on time becomes a survival skill. She laughed and got in. As Daniel pulled away from the curb, he could feel her looking at him. So are you going to tell me where we're going? She asked. Nope. That ruins the surprise. I'm not great with surprises. I'm starting to figure that out about you. You like being in control. Is that a problem? Not at all. But sometimes it's nice to let someone else take the wheel for a bit. Natalie settled back in her seat. Okay, I'll trust you. But if we end up at some weird place, I'm calling the bet off. 20 minutes later, Daniel pulled into a parking lot next to a building with a bright blue awning. The sign read, Cook Together Studio. Natalie looked at the building, then at Daniel. A cooking class. Not just any cooking class. We're making pasta from scratch. Real Italian style. They walked inside, where a cheerful woman named Rita greeted them. She was probably in her 60s, with flowers somehow already on her apron, even though the class hadn't started yet. Welcome, welcome. You must be Daniel and Natalie. Come in, come in. The studio was warm and smelled like garlic and fresh bread. There were 6 cooking stations set up, and 3 other couples were already there. Rita explained that they'd be making fettuccine, along with a simple butter and sage sauce. Now, pasta making is all about feel, Rita said, demonstrating how to form the dough. You cannot rush it. You must listen to what the dough tells you. Natalie leaned over to Daniel. The dough talks. Apparently. Just go with it. They started working on their dough, flour spreading across the counter. Natalie measured everything precisely, following Rita's instructions exactly. Daniel was more relaxed about it, eyeballing the measurements. You're supposed to use the measuring cup, Natalie said, watching him pour olive oil directly into the flour well. Rita said it's about feel, remember? I think she meant the texture, not just guessing at measurements. Are you always this much of a rule follower? Natalie paused, her hands in the dough. Yes, actually I am. It's kind of my job. Well, not tonight. Tonight you're just Natalie, making pasta and getting flour everywhere. She looked down at her hands, covered in dough and flour, then at her sweater, which had a dusting of white powder on it. Something in her expression shifted, like she was making a decision. Okay, she said. No rules tonight. They worked together, kneading the dough until it was smooth and elastic. Rita came by to check on them, nodding approvingly. Good, good. You two work well together. Are you married? No. They both said at the same time. Ah, not yet. I see, I see. Rita winked and moved on to the next station. Natalie's cheeks had turned slightly pink. Daniel pretended not to notice. The next part was rolling out the dough and cutting it into strips. This required coordination. One person turning the pasta machine, while the other fed the dough through. They figured out a rhythm, Daniel cranking the handle, while Natalie guided the dough. This is actually kind of fun, Natalie admitted as the first sheet of pasta came out thin and perfect. Kind of fun. This is the most exciting Wednesday night you've had in months. Admit it. I usually spend Wednesday nights reviewing contracts and case files. See, this is way better. They cut their fettuccine into long strips and hung them to dry. While they waited, Rita served everyone wine and bread. The other couples were chatting, comparing their pasta-making experiences. One couple had been married for 30 years and was taking the class for their anniversary. Another couple was on what appeared to be a first date, just like them. Can I ask you something? Natalie said, taking a sip of her wine. Sure. Why a cooking class? Out of everything you could have chosen for this date. Daniel thought about how to answer. A couple of reasons. First, it's interactive. We're doing something together, not just sitting across from each other at a restaurant trying to think of things to talk about. Second, cooking is intimate. You learn about how someone approaches problems, how they handle mistakes, whether they can work with others. That's actually pretty smart. And third, Daniel continued, I remembered you mentioned at the gallery that you eat out most nights because you're too busy to cook. I thought it might be nice to show you that making something from scratch doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. Natalie was quiet for a moment. You remember that? From one conversation. Of course. You also mentioned that your apartment has a view of the city lights, that you drink your coffee black, and that you've never been to a kid's soccer game before Saturday. Paying attention isn't that hard. You'd be surprised. Most people don't. Rita called them back to cook their pasta. They boiled it fresh, which took only a few minutes, then made the butter and sage sauce. The smell was incredible. When they finally sat down to eat what they'd made, Natalie took her first bite and closed her eyes. Oh my God, she said. This is actually really good. See, we make a good team. They ate slowly, talking between bites. Natalie told him about a case she was working on, a complicated corporate dispute that had been going on for 2 years. Daniel told her about Lily's latest obsession with wanting a pet dinosaur and how he tried to explain that dinosaurs were extinct. She said that scientists could probably bring them back if they tried hard enough. Daniel said, I didn't have the heart to explain all the reasons why that won't work. She sounds like she's going to be a scientist someday. Maybe. Or a lawyer. She's really good at arguing her point. A lawyer. Natalie smiled. I could see that. After the class ended, they walked back to Daniel's car. It was almost 9 o'clock, and the city lights were starting to come on. Daniel had one more part of the evening planned. The date's not over yet, he said as they got in. There's more. One more stop. I promise it's worth it. He drove to the Botanical Gardens on the east side of the city. Natalie looked confused when they pulled up. Aren't these closed at night? Usually yes, but on Wednesday evenings in spring, they stay open late and light up the paths. It's called the Moonlight Garden Walk. They paid the admission and walked into the gardens. Soft lights lined the pathways, and lanterns hung from trees. The whole place glowed gently in the darkness. There were other couples walking around, but it wasn't crowded, just peaceful. They walked slowly, not really heading anywhere in particular. The night air was cool but not cold. Somewhere nearby, Daniel could hear water from a fountain. This is beautiful, Natalie said softly. I've lived in this city for 8 years and never knew this existed. Most people don't. Lily and I come here sometimes during the day. She likes the butterfly house. They stopped at a small bridge that crossed over a pond. The water reflected the lights, making everything look like it was floating. Can I ask you something now? Daniel said. Fair's fair. Why did you really come to the soccer game? You could have just texted an excuse. Natalie leaned against the bridge railing, looking out at the water. Honestly, because you surprised me. At the gallery, when you said, "Want to bet?" You didn't sound defensive or angry. You sounded confident, like you genuinely believed what you were saying. And I'm not used to people surprising me. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm still figuring that out. She turned to face him. But tonight, this date, you've definitely proven your point. This is the most thoughtful date I've been on in, maybe ever. Even though we made a mess in the kitchen, and you got flour on your sweater. Especially because of that. They stood there on the bridge, close enough that Daniel could smell her perfume mixed with the scent of flowers from the garden. He wanted to kiss her. The moment felt right for it. But something held him back. What? Natalie asked, noticing his hesitation. I just want to make sure you understand something. If this continues, if we keep seeing each other, it's not just me. It's Lily too. She's part of the package. Always. I know that. Do you? Because it's one thing to show up to a soccer game and get ice cream. It's different when it's real. When plans change because she's sick or has a school event. When you have to be okay coming second sometimes, because she has to come first. That's the reality. Natalie reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were warm despite the cool air. When they pulled apart, Natalie was smiling. "So does this mean you won the bet?" "I think we both won," Daniel said. They walked back through the gardens hand in hand, taking their time. Neither of them was in a rush for the evening to end. And for the first time in 3 years, Daniel let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, there was room in his life for more than just being a dad. Maybe there was room for this too. 3 weeks passed, and Daniel felt like he was living in 2 different worlds that were slowly starting to merge. There was his regular world, waking up early, making breakfast, getting Lily to school, working his job as a graphic designer from home, picking Lily up, homework, dinner, bedtime, the routine he'd built and perfected over 3 years. And then there was Natalie. Coffee dates during his lunch break, phone calls after Lily went to bed, Saturday morning soccer games, where she now showed up without being asked, bringing coffee for Daniel and sometimes a snack for Lily. Weeknight dinners where she'd come over and the 3 of them would order takeout and watch movies. It was working, almost too well, and that scared Daniel more than he wanted to admit. "She's coming over again tonight?" Kate asked on the phone Thursday afternoon. Daniel was at the grocery store, trying to figure out what to make for dinner. "Yeah." Lily asked if she could. "They're working on that science project together." "The bean experiment?" "Yep. Natalie's been helping her document everything. Taking photos, writing observations. Lily's obsessed." "That's sweet. So things are getting serious?" Daniel picked up a container of pasta sauce, examined it, put it back. "I don't know. Maybe. It feels serious. But there's no but. Everything's good. Daniel, I'm your sister. I can hear the but in your voice even when you don't say it." He sighed, pushing the cart forward. It's been 3 weeks, Kate. 3 really good weeks. And I keep waiting for something to go wrong." "Why would something go wrong?" "Because it always does. Because dating as a single parent is complicated. Because eventually Natalie's going to realize that this life, my life, is a lot more work than she signed up for." "Or maybe," Kate said gently, "she already knows that, and she's still choosing to be there. Give her some credit." Daniel wanted to believe that. He really did. That evening, Natalie arrived at 6:30 with her laptop bag and a bottle of wine. She'd started keeping a change of clothes at his place. Nothing major, just a spare shirt and some comfortable pants for nights when she came over after work. "How was your day?" Daniel asked, taking her jacket. "Long depositions all morning, then a client meeting that should have taken an hour, but went 3. I'm exhausted." She kissed him quickly. "Where's Lily?" "In her room, checking on the beans. I think she's counted them 4 times today. She's very dedicated to her research." They had dinner, spaghetti that Daniel had made from scratch using the techniques Rita had taught them. Lily talked nonstop about how 2 of her bean plants were growing faster than the others. "I think it's the soil from the garden center," she said, twirling pasta on her fork. "That one has better nutrients." "You'll need to include that in your conclusion," Natalie said. "Scientists always explain why they think something happened." "I know. I'm making a whole chart." After dinner, while Natalie and Lily worked on the project at the kitchen table, Daniel cleaned up. He could hear them talking, Lily explaining her observations, while Natalie asked questions that helped her think deeper. It was such a normal scene, domestic, and it filled Daniel with warmth and terror in equal measure. His phone buzzed. A text from his ex-wife, Melissa. She texted maybe once every 2 months, usually asking how Lily was doing. She'd moved to California and started a new life. New husband, new career. She sent birthday cards and Christmas presents, but that was about it. "Heard through the grapevine you're seeing someone. Good for you. Hope she knows what she's getting into." Daniel stared at the message. It shouldn't have bothered him. Melissa had made her choice years ago. But something about those words, "knows what she's getting into," hit harder than he expected. "Dad, can you help us print these photos?" Lily called from the kitchen. "Yes, sweetie. 1 second." He slipped his phone into his pocket and went to help. Later, after Lily was in bed, Daniel and Natalie sat on the couch with glasses of wine. She changed into the comfortable clothes she kept at his place, and her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She looked tired but content. She's really excited about this project, Natalie said. I think she might actually win the science fair. Thanks to you. You've been amazing with her. She makes it easy. She's a great kid, Daniel. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, and Daniel tried to push away the anxiety that had been building since Melissa's text. But Natalie knew him well enough by now to notice. What's wrong? She asked. Nothing. I'm fine. You've been quiet since dinner. Talk to me. Daniel took a breath. My ex-wife texted. It's not a big deal. She just said something that got in my head. What did she say? He pulled out his phone and showed her the message. Natalie read it, her expression unreadable. Hope she knows what she's getting into, she read aloud. That's a nice passive-aggressive dig. She's not wrong, though. This, he gestured around the apartment. My life, it's a lot. Early mornings, soccer games, science projects, school events. There's not a lot of spontaneity. Not a lot of room for just us. Okay, and at some point, you're going to wake up and realize this isn't what you wanted. That you're 29 years old, and you should be out living your life, not helping a 7-year-old grow beans and going to bed at 10 on a Thursday night. Natalie set down her wine glass. Her expression had shifted from tired to something sharper. Not angry exactly, but serious. Is that really what you think? That I'm just here until something better comes along? I don't know. I keep waiting for you to realize that you made a mistake. A mistake? She said it flatly. Natalie, come on. Be honest. 3 weeks ago you were working late every night, going out with friends, living your own life. Now you're spending your evenings helping with homework and watching kids' movies. Because I want to. But for how long? What happens when your friends invite you out and you have to say no because it's my night with Lily? What happens when there's a work trip or a case that needs you and I can't just drop everything to go with you because I have responsibilities? Natalie stood up. Daniel's stomach dropped. This was it, the moment he'd been dreading. She was going to leave, and he'd proven himself right. But she didn't leave. She paced to the window and back, her arms crossed. Do you know what my life was like before I met you? She asked. It was work. That's it. I'd wake up, go to the office, work 12 hours, come home, eat something from a delivery app, maybe watch an hour of TV, and go to sleep. On weekends, I'd catch up on more work or meet up with friends who would spend the whole time complaining about their jobs or their dating lives. That doesn't sound so bad. It was empty, Daniel. It was successful and impressive and completely empty. And then I met you. And yeah, my life looks different now. I spend Saturday mornings at soccer games instead of brunch. I help with science projects instead of reviewing depositions until midnight. I eat dinner at a table with a kid who tells me dinosaur facts instead of eating takeout alone on my couch. She stopped pacing and looked directly at him. And you know what? I'm happier. I'm happier than I've been in years. So don't tell me what I want or what I signed up for. I'm here because I choose to be here. Every single day, I make that choice. Daniel felt something crack open in his chest. I'm scared, he admitted quietly. I'm scared that you'll wake up one day and regret this. That I'm not enough. That this life isn't enough. Natalie came back to the couch and sat down next to him. She took his hand. I'm scared too, she said. I'm scared I'm going to mess up with Lily. That I'll say the wrong thing or do something wrong and you'll realize I'm not cut out for this. I'm scared that I don't know how to be what you both need. You're doing great with her. Better than great. Then why can't you believe that I'm choosing this? That I'm choosing you and Lily and this life? Daniel didn't have a good answer for that. The truth was, Melissa leaving had broken something in him. Not his heart, exactly. They'd fallen out of love long before the divorce. But she'd broken his belief that anyone would willingly choose this life. The chaos and responsibility and lack of freedom that came with being a partner to a single parent. My ex left because she couldn't handle it, he said finally. She loved Lily, but she couldn't handle the reality of being a mom. And I guess I keep expecting you to figure out the same thing. I'm not your ex-wife. I know that. Do you? Because right now it feels like you're comparing me to her. Like you're waiting for me to fail some test that she failed. Daniel closed his eyes. She was right. He'd been so focused on protecting himself and Lily from getting hurt again that he hadn't been fair to Natalie. He'd been treating their relationship like it had an expiration date. "I'm sorry," he said. "You're right. I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop instead of just trusting what we have. I get why. I really do. But you can't keep one foot out the door, Daniel. Either you trust us, or you don't. Because I can't keep proving myself every single day." The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic outside. Daniel thought about the past 3 weeks. How Natalie had shown up, consistently, without being asked. How she'd learned Lily's favorite snacks and remembered which cartoon she liked. How she'd started talking about we instead of you and Lily. How she'd been there. "What if we mess this up?" he asked. "Then we mess it up. But at least we'll mess it up together, trying our best. That's all anyone can do." Daniel pulled her closer, and she rested her head on his shoulder. They sat like that for a long time, not talking, just being together. Outside, the city continued its endless motion, but inside this apartment, everything felt still. "I do trust this," Daniel said eventually. "I trust you. I'm just learning how to trust the possibility that good things can stay." "We'll figure it out," Natalie said. "One day at a time. One soccer game at a time. One science project at a time. One dinner at a time." "Exactly." She lifted her head and kissed him, and it felt different than the other kisses they'd shared. It felt like a promise. Not that everything would be perfect, but that they'd face the imperfect parts together. When they pulled apart, Natalie smiled. "So are we good?" "Yeah, we're good." "Good. Because I was not looking forward to telling Lily that I'd missed seeing her science project presentation. She's been texting me updates about the beans for 2 weeks." Daniel laughed, the tension finally breaking. "She texts you about the beans?" "At least 3 times a week. Yesterday she sent me a photo with the caption, 'Subject B grew another centimeter.' She's very professional about her research." "That's my daughter." "That's our daughter," Natalie corrected softly, then caught herself. I didn't mean to." "I know what you meant," Daniel said. "And it's okay. More than okay." They finished their wine and talked about lighter things. About Lily's upcoming birthday. About a new case Natalie was starting. About whether they should plan a weekend trip somewhere when school let out for summer. They made plans like people do when they're building a future together. And this time, Daniel let himself believe in those plans. The months passed quietly but meaningfully. Mia had slowly become a part of Daniel and Lily's life, not because there had been a sudden spark or an overwhelming moment of drama, but because of the little things that built a connection stronger than any flashy romance could. She didn't rush, and neither did Daniel. They simply learned to appreciate each other in a way that felt natural, like pieces of a puzzle finally coming together. It started with small mornings. Lily would come into the kitchen, still half asleep, and Mia would already be there helping with breakfast. Daniel would smile as he watched, sipping his coffee, amazed at how someone could fit so seamlessly into their little world. Mia laughed when Lily insisted on making pancakes shaped like stars or dinosaurs, and Daniel often found himself joining in, his workday forgotten in the warmth of their home. Evenings were filled with simple joys. Sometimes they would sit together in the living room, watching Lily do her homework. Mia had a patience Daniel admired, guiding Lily gently without ever losing her temper. Daniel, who had always been careful to keep things calm for Lily, felt a sense of relief he hadn't realized he needed. He had spent so many years alone with his daughter, carrying every responsibility on his shoulders. Now, it wasn't about someone taking over, but about sharing the life he had built with someone who understood it. There were moments when Mia would glance at Daniel, seeing the quiet determination in the way he managed their little family. She remembered the first time she teased him, thinking he couldn't measure up, and she felt a mixture of shame and gratitude. She had been wrong to judge him in a casual, teasing way. He was not only capable, but he was extraordinary in ways she hadn't recognized at first. One afternoon, they all went to the park. Lily ran ahead, giggling as she chased a butterfly, while Daniel pushed Mia on the swing, his hands gentle but strong. They laughed together, sharing stories and teasing each other in a comfortable way. For Mia, It was a revelation. She had never felt this kind of connection with anyone before. It wasn't the thrill of passion or the excitement of new love. It was something steadier, warmer, and more fulfilling. She felt like she belonged, not just as a friend or companion, but as a part of a family. Back at home, dinners became a ritual. They cooked together, tried new recipes, and even experimented with dishes that occasionally failed in a funny, endearing way. Lily would taste the food with exaggerated expressions, making both of them laugh. Daniel noticed how easily Mia made Lily feel comfortable, how she encouraged creativity and curiosity. He remembered how difficult it had been for him to handle everything on his own, and how lonely some nights had felt. Now there was laughter, support, and genuine care in every corner of their home. The bond between Mia and Daniel deepened over time. It wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was in the way they noticed each other, cared for each other, and respected the life they were building together. Daniel admired her patience, her humor, and her ability to see beyond the surface. Mia admired his consistency, his integrity, and the love he poured into his daughter every single day. Their connection felt real because it was built on understanding, respect, and shared experience. One evening, after a long day, they were sitting on the couch together. Lily had fallen asleep on the floor with a storybook still in her hands. Mia leaned against Daniel, feeling a sense of peace she had never known before. She turned to him and smiled softly, remembering the first time he had leaned in and said, "Want a bet?" "You know," she said, teasing lightly, "I guess you did win that bet." Daniel chuckled, looking down at her with warmth in his eyes. "I don't think it was ever about winning," he replied. "It was about showing up, about being there for the people who matter. I think we both did." Mia laughed quietly, realizing the truth in his words. The bet, she understood now, was never about proving who was more attractive or charming. It had been a challenge to connect, to understand, and to be present. They had both succeeded in ways neither of them could have imagined. Over the next months, life continued in its gentle rhythm. There were school events, family outings, and quiet nights at home. They celebrated birthdays and small achievements, always together. Mia watched Daniel with Lily and saw how much love and patience he gave. Daniel watched Mia and saw how naturally she fit into their lives. Lily adored Mia, asking her to read bedtime stories, join in games, and be part of her little world. It was not a perfect life in every way, but it was full of love, trust, and connection. Mia reflected on her own journey. She had once thought single dads were less exciting, less capable, or less likely to make a deep emotional connection. But Daniel had shown her the opposite. He had shown her that real love, real commitment, and real family were not about appearances or bravado. They were about showing up, being consistent, and caring deeply for the people who mattered most. The story of their relationship was not filled with dramatic twists or shocking moments. It was built on everyday experiences, shared laughter, quiet support, and mutual respect. The kind of love that grows slowly, steadily, and meaningfully, until one day you realize it has become the center of your life. One night, after Lily had gone to bed, Mia and Daniel sat on the porch, sipping tea and enjoying the cool evening air. Mia looked at him and said, "I never thought a joke would lead to this. I never thought I would feel this right." Daniel smiled, taking her hand in his. "Neither did I," he admitted, "but I'm glad it did. Life is funny that way. You think you know someone, and then they surprise you. The important thing is, we're here now, together." Mia leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of his presence beside her. She knew there would still be challenges, still be days that tested their patience and resilience. But she also knew that together, they could face anything. They had built something real, something that mattered, something lasting. And as they sat there, in the quiet night, watching the stars, they both understood that the real win had never been about proving anything to anyone else. The real win was the love, trust, and family they had created together. It was in the laughter, the quiet moments, the shared responsibilities, and the care they gave each other and Lily. It was simple,